12 seconds off. I got to get this Tommy number. Good morning. Happy
Close enough for
Friday.
a Friday.
So Memorial Day weekend is really to honor our fallen veterans. And it's really important because we enjoy our freedom. We want to say thank you for everybody who lost their lives protecting our country. But it's also the beginning of kickoff of summer. So it's a big voting weekend and it's just everything kind of comes together. So everyone have a safe and happy Memorial Day this weekend. And we're closed on Monday, so the offices will not be staffed, but of course you get your Kissy app so you can come in and get what you need. But the staff will have a nice, well-deserved day off. So very cool. Rachel, you sent me some screenshots yesterday, or maybe it was this morning. I didn't pay attention when they came in.
Yeah, it was.
It makes me curious because a lot of agents are getting their education online from other people, and they're not right. They're just
Yes.
they're making shit up and acting like it's real, and it's not. The issue was, if I correct me if I'm wrong, some buyer wanted an agent to write into the contract that the seller would pay their commission. Okay, and that
was here in Florida.
In Florida.
That was the
Yeah,
original.
and you got agents in these networking groups chiming in from other states. Understand, there's no national real estate board. Every state has its own laws and rules and everything else. So I heard people chiming in and saying yes and no and yes and no and yes and no. And it's almost like watching Wikipedia. You get bullshit answers that don't make any sense. So I'll tell you what the real answer is. It's not a matter of law. When you sign up as a realtor, you are a member of the National Association of Realtors and you subscribe to their code of ethics. Okay, so the code of ethics says it's unethical to use a contract to modify the offer of compensation in the MLS. That's what it says. Now, right now, we have compensation offered in the MLS. So it is considered to be unethical to do that. However, compensation in the MLS is going to go away, which means the National Association of Realtors Code of Ethics is going to have to change. That's why they keep pushing this thing down the road. We've had a July implementation. Now we got an August implementation. It's probably going to push back further to October, right? But they've also redefined buyer's commission as a closing cost. So yes, while you can't ask the seller to pay the buyer's agent's commission, the buyer can ask the seller to pay their closing cost, which could be a commission. So that's the legal right answer.
And that
In
only
Florida.
works, because if they're giving them closing cost, if you don't have that buyer broker agreement, there's no guarantee you would get that. Would that be fair to say?
100%. That's the other side. Because if not, you're making an offer and the seller could strike through that offer. The buyer would still have an acceptable contract they could sign. And you would just be written out of the deal. But since you have a buyer broker compensation agreement with the buyer, then the buyer owes you that money so they can ask for it. But it was very interesting to me to see that the 5 different screenshots you sent me, different people had different answers. And
they did. We had people who said, oh, no, it doesn't violate the code of ethics because they didn't mean it this way. When we start interpreting anything, I think we're very close to practicing law, and we probably should avoid that.
Correct. So but, I was talking with Chris Reed the other day, and I mentioned the critical date timeline and how I like teaching that as a contract tool. And Chris said, I like the critical date timeline too, but it really doesn't teach the contract. So I'm going to go deeply with you into the critical date timelines today. And we're going to talk about, okay, it was designed to be very simple. It was designed to say, hey, Rachel, these are the most important points of a contract. Identify them and pass it on to your assistant and let them draft the contract for you. So when you go back to the office, it's all printed up, it's in dot loop, it's ready for signatures. That's the purpose of this form. But as I started using it more, I started saying, well, this is really pretty comprehensive. Let's teach from it. Because there are 660 lines in the contract, and most of them are not relevant until they're relevant, right?
Right.
I mean, if there's force majeure knocks down the power line, your closing does get extended. But you don't have to quote that to every buyer, especially if you're not in hurricane season, right? So there's a lot of stuff in there that we don't need. So I took out the stuff that we don't need on a regular basis. It's all there. Believe me, that contract is very comprehensive. But the stuff that we have to know, we have to know. So with the short time we have today, 5 chats real quick. Happy Friday, happy Friday. Who's getting new contracts this week? We need some more contract size, but you know what's happening? You guys are generating prospects now, and prospects are taking longer to mature into the contracts, right? So don't be dissuaded. You're getting the prospects. I know, I talked to you. They're just not buying yet because they're confused and they got choices and all this other stuff they didn't have. You know, they have a saying that, you know, when you give people too many choices, they choose the wrong one. And that's what's happening to people now. They're not used to having so many choices. It used to be a house hit the market, got an offer, move. Now it's got a market. Let's see what happens. Let's do this. Let's get some insurance. The insurance class yesterday, by the way, I don't know how many, we didn't have a whole lot of people online for that. It was very, very, very boring, first of all. But the content was really, the content was really good. I mean, Lindsay knows her stuff. It just wasn't entertaining. I'd hope she
Well, insurance is always boring until you need it or until you need to understand it. And, you know, gathering a lot of this boring information and being able to transmit it to our customers is where we bring value. So understanding how those things work is important. You know, it's like eating your vegetables so you can have dessert when you were a kid.
Yeah. Nick wrote in 2 new contracts yesterday. High five, dude.
Yes. And, you know, there's another thing about Memorial Day. It kicks off summer, and that kicks off the selling season for a lot of families that move between school seasons. So there are people out there that will begin looking in earnest this week now that they've got the madness of school behind them. So let's go and find those people.
Yep. Jamie wrote it with Lindsay.
But back to the contract intake form. I'm old-fashioned, so I have it printed out. I have a binder in my car that has the contract intake form, the listing intake form, a buyer lifestyle profile, and the seller lead sheet so that you can get the information that you need. It's just one of those things to make sure that you don't miss a piece and then you have to call and look back, because I tell you guys, I hate when I look foolish. I know probably most of us do. So I hate to sit with someone and say, oh yeah, I'll go ahead and get this written up. And then I have to call and say, I forgot to ask how long they wanted the inspection period to be. So this is a great way to keep you on point, because if you have this sheet filled out, you have everything that you will need to fill out that contract.
Correct. That's really what this is designed to do. Now, whether you have an assistant or you are the assistant, you have an assistant. So this is designed to give your assistant what they need to do to prepare your file for you. Now, I'm in .loop. I went to all forms. I typed in intake, and it gave me 2 options, listing and contract. So we'll do the contract one first. Now, is it important to know who we represent?
Absolutely.
100%. And is it important to tell them which contract to use, as is or regular?
Yes, because
seller
they
name,
are
buyer
different.
Name. Why would we need seller name, buyer name, and email address? Because they're going to create the loop for you, right? And if you do all this stuff in .loop, man, it's just a piece of cake, easy peasy lemon squeezy, when all the stuff is done right. Property address, obviously, city, zip code, MLS number, right?
So one question that I do get when people are when I first show them, they're like, well, what if I don't know the sellers? I said, you don't need the sellers. This is just designed so we can represent either the seller or the buyer. And I said, if you're representing the buyer, you do want to go to IMAP or the county tax assessor and make sure that the people who are on that document actually match the people who are on the listing. It's very rare, but occasionally you will have it happen. And sometimes if it's owned as an LLC can't write a contract. You have to know who the manager is. So if you check those on the tax record, and then if it's owned by an LLC, you can check it through SunBiz. That way, when you write that contract, your T's are crossed, your I's are dotted, and you're not going to have to come back and get people to sign again. Because how annoying is it for us personally if we have to go back and redo something we've already done, right? Yep. And I feel like I have done that all week because I have been making, silly mistakes or information would change. So there's enough that will change that we'll have to make them over. If we start everything on the right foot, then we don't have that issue.
100%. Great point. And like Rachel said, she keeps these printed out on paper in her car just because it's an easy thing to do. And, we all forget these things, but, when we're talking to our buyers and sellers, what are included items and excluded items? You need to check the MLS and see, what is included, what is excluded. And if there's something you want included, it's okay to ask for it, right? Especially now. Yeah. Sellers will make decisions and let go of things they wanted to keep just to get their house sold because they want their house sold. So those are meaningful conversations that a good agent is going to have with their customer. And it's written down here. So it's top of mind. So you think about it. You know, the purchase price, the offer they want to make. And I'm going to stress this again. I think it was Joe and I talked last week about it. Don't be afraid to present an offer. You know, I had Kalani on with Real Life Real Estate a couple weeks ago, and she took that list and they wanted $1,750,000. And we got an offer to $1.5 million. But we presented that offer to $1.5 million, and we ended up back and forth, and got it really close to $1.6 million with some repairs. It's going to drop it down to the low $1.5 million. So there's a seller was adamant. He wanted $200,000 more, but he took an offer that was $200,000 less. But he was warned up front that the roof was shot and the dock was shot, seawall had issues and all that type of stuff. So it made the decision easier because he had the information back behind him. So this is just a good reminder, included, excluded items. Now, when you're looking at this form, I want you to think about, this is not a scary contract. It's just one piece of paper. That's all you got to know.
Right.
Now, initial deposit, I've told you this 1,000 times. I don't care if it's $100 because the initial deposit is meaningless, right? Because they get it back during their inspection period on an as-is contract.
Yes.
Is it a company or is it within so many days of acceptance? That becomes a critical date. And you got to tell people, hey, if you don't make this deposit, it's going to be forfeited. We're going to have to come after you to get it, but you have to make it on time. Then what's the best way to make a deposit now with Paramount Title?
Online, right in that secure portal. It's very easy.
Title
And I would say too, the initial deposit, yeah, it doesn't really matter a hill of beans, but still psychological warfare, right? So the higher that number is, the better off you are. Or if it's, you know, fairly high and then you add another one. I tell my clients, you'll have a better opportunity if you come in with at least 3% down. They're going to take you seriously.
Correct. And that's
just a matter of how we represent them and advise them. Like you said, it can be $100, and I don't think I've ever written one that low, but I've written them with, you know, 1,000.
Something nominal just to show intent, but the meat comes with the additional deposit. I'm going to get $9,000 at the end of the inspection period. Okay, now I got something worth fighting for. And is that a company or is it within so many days of acceptance? So if you have a 7-day time for acceptance, write in an 8-day for the additional deposit if you do.
And I would just say here too, you know, we do have Paramount Company that can hold the escrow for your person. So they can go ahead and make a deposit there. You just need to be giving them an address. And sometimes you could do it with one address and then they will just hold it as well. Because back when the market was so crazy, that's what I had to do with some of my buyers. You wanted it already there. At a companies, you can already have proof that it's there, it's in there, we are good to go. That was a really good psychological warfare tool to make you look better. So you do have the ability for them to go ahead and put a deposit on file with Paramount. Then that can give you a little bit of leeway too when you check that box that says seller agrees to choose paragraph 9C, the one that we can add on the contract. Everyone familiar with that? You can say paragraph 9C, seller agrees to choose Paramount. If you choose Paramount, you're just going to have a much smoother transaction. There are other good title companies out there, and I've dealt with a few of them, but y'all, there are a lot of them that are really bad with communication. And at the end of the day, all of this business is just communication. So when you go with Paramount, Victoria, Megan, Kathy, they are all excellent with communication, and it's so important.
Yep. Thank you for that plug. So we got to put the title company down because the contract has blanks for it. Time and date of acceptance. That's the strategy. That's the negotiation tactic. How long do you want to give them? Now that's where the communication comes. I think it's going to be better for us when the August implementation comes. So we're going to actually talk to the other agent and say, hey, what's your seller? Well, they're on a cruise till Tuesday. Well, if they're on a cruise till Tuesday, probably don't write a time for acceptance of Sunday because they're not going to sign it. And if it doesn't get signed, what happens to your contract?
It doesn't go forward.
It vaporizes. It goes on.
Oh, I like Nick is being punny. He said some would say communication is paramount.
There you go. All right. Closing date, same thing. A communication point. Deals are won and lost over little things like this. If the seller wants to stay until mid-August because of whatever reason, if your buyer can accommodate that, they might get their offer chosen just for convenience over price or some other terms. All right. So that's a discussion.
Yeah, and that call to the listing agent is so important, to find out these things. And especially if you, like me, like to work as a single agent.
Yep.
We have to have that already in writing. And as a single agent, you can really, I won't say do a lot of damage, but you can do a lot of reconnaissance there that a lot of agents would be a lot more willing to talk than they should be. Because again, we communicate, and a lot of us lose deals because we just don't know when to stop communicating. As your dad puts it, Craig, he who talks first loses.
That's right.
When you're in negotiations sometimes.
Oh, so says, don't say boo-hoo when boo will do.
Michael, to answer your question about the agent's buyer, they make the deposit. A lot of times an agent will already have a title company put into the MLS and the remarks down toward the bottom of the broker synopsis. But you can always put it with Paramount and ask them to switch to Paramount. When I call, I always talk with the other agent about how they pick their title company. And usually it's because they have a relationship with them. Sometimes it's not. And I just say, hey, if you'd want to give, why don't we go ahead and give Paramount a try? They're great. My buyer already has his deposit there, and it's this much. And especially if you have a larger deposit, sometimes that little extra heft helps you get it switched, because the more we control on the transaction, the less can go wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the more pieces that we have together, and I might be just a little bit, just the tiniest bit of a control freak, is probably one of my biggest flaws, but I do like having everything go smoothly in the way that it should be.
And there is a drop down clause in .luke, where the clauses section is. Clauses, and then there's a Paramount title clause. Like you said, paragraph 9C, seller selects Paramount title to be the closing agent. And guys, we will never, ever not be the lowest bidder. We're going to charge our normal rates, but if somebody says they'll beat us, we'll beat them. So don't worry about that. Is the property currently leased? Do we need to know that? Yes. And
Can
then
you guys hear me online?
Yes, you sound good. End of lease date, of course, we need to know that, because buyer cannot take occupancy until the lease date is up. And that's just something we need to know. Financing type for your assistant, what is it going to be? Home warranty. Guys, we're doing a really piss poor job of selling home warranties, if I do say so myself. We're selling like 3 or 4 a month. And it's just, it makes no sense. We're back into a market where the buyer can ask the seller to provide a home warranty. Right? Ask them for the ultimate home warranty plan. I think it's $900, or get the basic one and let the buyer upgrade it to the ultimate. But I certainly would recommend a home warranty. There's just so many little things in a house that can go wrong. And when do they go wrong?
When you don't buy a warranty.
Yeah, when you don't buy a warranty and right after closing. It's just crazy.
Yes.
Repair limits, if there's a regular contract, are the repair limits. It's default 1.5%. You can write in a dollar amount or a percentage. But remember, you're preparing this for your assistant so they can create the loop for you. How many inspection period days do you want? Right? Probably 7. That's a good number. What are the repair limits for general repairs, wood destroying organisms, and permits? Who's paying the transaction fee? Sometimes you pay it, sometimes the buyer pays it, sometimes the seller. Tell us so we can put it in the contract the right way. How did you get the lead is just a cognizant point. Just to think about, wow, how did I get this lead? Was it relo? Was it a sphere of influence? Was it a past client? Was it an open house? What was it? So you can keep these things in check.
Did I make a cold call? And that is so important to track that, guys, because what you do there is repeatable. Exactly. So when you're making your business plan for the next quarter, where did my deals come from? Think you might, if you got a lot from open houses, do you think you might want to add open houses and make that a primary focus on your pillar? Wherever your strengths are, play to your strengths. Life is too short not to play to your strengths.
Lauren just typed in, I just got my $40 check from home warranty. All you got to do is put 5 appliances are in there and you get a check for $40 for open fill out the application. Mike said, when does a home warranty is needed? In July, when you're moving in and the AC fails.
Oh,
man, yes. I got lucky. I'll just go to that sidebar today. My ACs are upstairs in my office right here, and they go through the floor and PVC pipe, and then they go across the ceiling and out the wall. Well, I don't go on that side of the garage very often, and I went out there the other day and it was flooded. So my AC was backing up. I didn't know it. So it cued me to go suck out the lines. So I took my shop vac and I sucked out the lines. The water stopped dripping. The floor's dry now. but my ACs were about to fail because those lines are stuck. So reminder to everybody, go suck out your AC lines before summer really gets hot and make yourself a little easier. Thank you, John, smartass. After you buy your daughter a rental property and the water heater goes out. All right, then here, additional terms, additional items, anything else you want in this contract? And then addenda to be included. That's important, right? Are you going to do a home sale contingency? Or are you going to do whatever addendums of all the 27 that we have in
Does
there?
it need a lead-based paint? Does it need a condo rider?
Exactly. HOAs, all that stuff is there. So that's it. So if we take it this way, a contract's really not that scary, right? Now, I'm not saying be a moron and don't read the contract, because I want you to know the ins and the outs of the contract. But don't be afraid of it, because this is really all you need to know to make an effective contract effective, right? So let's jump in now into, guess what? The listing intake.
The listing one.
Who's taking your photographs? Is it Shannon? Yes or no? Do you want to sign? Yes or no? Because we order those for you based on you telling us what you want, or your assistant would do it for you. Same seller's name, buyer's name. And like Rachel said, verify against text records. If not, we're going to do it for you. So, but then you got to go back and say, oh, sorry, Steph. It's really Stephanie who needs to sign. And then you get in that situation.
Right. And a lot of times I have actually found that that a listing agent would put the LLC there and not put trustee or manager, and then they just have someone signing. You want to verify that that is the trustee, because one contract we had over here, whoever it was that was signing was not listed as the manager or a trustee on the LLC. So is that an enforceable contract?
Nope.
If you don't have the authority to act, it's not an enforceable contract. So an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
No doubt.
And a lot less heartache.
So the listing agreement is actually even easier to fill out than the contract. All right. Now, once again, I don't want moron agents. So I want you to read the listing agreement, know what your obligations and rights are, because that's really all it says. But what you need to know to fill out the thing is pretty simple. Property address 1, city, state, zip code, yes. Listing start date and end date. What's our typical? 6 months.
6 months.
Right. And then Chris likes to say, if they give you a hard time with 6 months, then right into it, you can cancel with no penalty after 90 days. But at least get the 6-month listing, because they're going to love you anyway. And if it does go past 90 days, then you already got it signed. You have to go get it extended. Right. And we'll honor our word. If we said they can cancel with no penalty in 90 days, that's okay. But we really should not have a problem getting a 6-month listing agreement.
Now, if you have, you think about it, if you're going to go and sign for even a personal loan, it's a certain period of time. And what you're doing in your business, what you're in the business of, is you give people a loan up front, betting that you're able to sell their house. So if I'm going to spend a lot of money marketing and doing all the things that we do, offering the agency, the Zillow showcases, the professional photography, open houses, the time that you're putting into research, give yourself the best chance of getting paid. And especially as we move toward that normal market, because 6 months is an average time, guys.
Yeah, that's cute, John. I put in a year and I crossed out and said, if I can't get 6 months, I should not be in the business.
Michael, I don't know why you would pay for somebody to do it when you can go through our back office and it's taken care of for you.
Mike's a BE3 agent, so they don't get their signs. They got to buy their own signs.
Oh, sorry. Never mind.
Okay. Listing start. Include this is a conversation. If it's Aunt Millie's chandelier that has sentimental value to it, it's in the dining room and it's really pretty, take it down, go to Home Depot and buy a $50 one and stick it up. Right. So those are the things we have to be cognizant of. Right. If not, we're going to exclude it, but that's just something else. Because remember, the listing agreement is a contract between the seller and the brokerage company. So we've agreed that the chandelier is not included, but that has to transfer to the contract between the buyer and the seller. So you got to remember to make sure that that chandelier is not included, is excluded from that contract. And that's where a lot of agents get in trouble, because they don't see what the listing agreement said. So we want to make sure what conveys and what doesn't, and double check it on the purchase and sale contract. So that's an important discussion to have there, include excluded items with the seller as well. Listing prices.
Yeah, and it's important, a lot of agents may have that if you're looking at a listing and you're representing the buyer, it may be down in the remarks. So be sure that you're transferring that as well, and be sure that it, you know, it goes into the remarks on your listing, and what items are excluded. Because if it's there, then you have done your best. You've represented your seller. You've said it's not there. So when you get that contract, you strike that out, because usually if it's put in the excluded and somebody wants it, they'll try and move it to the included, and then your seller can respond.
Right. So double check those lines in both agreements. Title company name, contact information, it's just that there. Because they're going to have to own the contract itself, not the listing agreement. Is the seller offering closing costs? That's a discussion to have. You know, if you are selling a home in one of these new master plan communities where they're still building, and the builder's offering interest rate buy downs and closing costs and a lower price than what you probably paid, it's a challenge. That's going to be one of our real life real estate topics on Monday. I forget which agent it is now. I've got two coming on. Oh, Laura and Susie. But one's in a situation where we were going to sell the house pre-COVID in the 200s, and now they're going to put on the market in the 400s. The seller's making a windfall because they waited. Then we got another one where the seller bought it just a year ago, and they're going to take a bath because the builder has since lowered the price and it's offering all these incentives. So it's going to be tough for them to compete. So real life real estate, we're going to dive into that a lot on Monday. But is the seller offering, that's not something to brush over. If you are in that situation, you might have seriously want to talk to them about offering closing costs or lowering the price to compensate for what the builder is offering. Listing broker commission, selling broker commission. We're going to treat this the same way, guys. We're going to recommend that the seller offer compensation to the buyer's agent, right? Because it's in their best interest to do so. How much is negotiable, but we're going to try to negotiate for 3% because that's the reputation we want to have. Is the property presently leased, and when does the lease up? You know that. What's acceptable financing to the seller? The seller could say, I don't want any VA financing. Joe just sent an email this morning that VA is planning to temporarily lift its ban on buyers paying for their real estate representation. So that's hot news in the VA world right now, because VA, we just say no, a veteran cannot pay a buyer's agent commission. Now they're losing their rights on that. Property lease, acceptable financing. Now, once again, we don't want to limit these financing options. What do we care? All money's green when it comes in the checking account.
Right.
So whether it comes conventional, FHA, VA, cash, other, whatever. Home warranty.
And I think it's really important to encourage your buyers, because most homes are going, you know, most of the homes, 90% of the homes we represent, I would say, would be able to accept FHA and VA financing. There's one in a community where I have a listing right now, and they've got checked the only acceptable financing is cash. Well, it's a condo community, so it is just cash and conventional. But this is probably not the market to eliminate any buyer, any potential buyer. So we definitely want to represent our people well. And if they can qualify for those other things, then yes, they should definitely accept those offers. Like you said, money spends the same no matter where you got it.
Right. And once again, another negotiation point. You know, when you buy a car and they put you in the room and they try to upsell you for the tire warranty and all the other shit, right? That's pretty valuable stuff. Last time I got a new car, literally the first week, I lost the tire. It was on a construction site, ran over a nail, and went through the sidewall, and the tire was shot. It was a $400 tire, right? Had I bought the warranty plan for the tires, I would have had a free tire out of it. My new truck, I bought the tire plan because it happened to me last time. So mention, hey, seller, it could be enticing to a buyer to offer a home warranty plan. And if you're going to offer one, you know, hopefully use Global Home USA because it's ours, and say yes, by Global Home USA, which plan? Even if you offer the cheap plan, the $500 plan, right? Then when it comes to contract time, say, hey, buyer, here's the extra stuff you can add on if you want it, but we're paying for the base plan, right? I think that's more than fair. What addendas included? Any additional items that we want to put in the listing agreement, like, you know, Rachel will accompany all showings or whatever you're going to agree to. If you want to put it in writing, then put it in there. Transaction fee is already written into listing agreements. That's pretty simple. And then how did you
So if they were willing to do closing costs, or maybe they didn't want to do closing costs, but they would do a rate buy down for someone, would you put it in closing costs and put rate buy down, or would you put it there in additional items?
I'd probably put in additional items. Because when something's in additional items, it calls attention to it. When it's hidden in the body of the contract, it gets overlooked sometimes.
Yes.
But that's it. That's all you need to do to write a listing agreement. So what's holding you back? Let's all go write a listing this weekend and a contract this weekend.
Yes.
Right.
So, and guys, I got to give a shout out to one of my new agents, Sarah, and one who just came back, John. They both have been here less than 2 weeks. Both of them have written contracts in the last 2 weeks. Sarah, even before she had all of her MLS, full MLS access. So, and this is what I tell you guys, we are here as managers to support you. If you get the business, we will make sure to help you with that contract.
Exactly.
We are more than happy to do that.
What if we pay for the home warranty, then just put in their home warranty provided by agent?
Mm-hmm.
Lauren says, I have a corporate listing now in Parrish where they purchased last year and they're still building. Highland and Adams Homes. We came on the market priced accordingly and offering it $10,000 in flex money and a $1,000 bonus to the co-broke right off the bat, since the builders are our main competition. That's smart, Lauren. I mean, you have to judge what's out there. Miss Rachel,
your market.
We did it in 30 minutes or less.
We did.
Right. This is a good class, Angelique, to just record. And it takes the fear away from writing a contract. In a pinch, here's all you need to know. Right. Now, of course, this is no substitute for reading the contract and understanding the nuances behind all the other stuff that's in there. But as far as writing an effective contract, this is all you need to know to get it done. Okay. It is Friday.
Have a good weekend. Get started on that selling season. And if you want to deep dive into the contract, the first week in June, I'm going to be doing a Contracts 101 on one of my afternoon meetings where we will go through it line by line. So if anybody would like to tune in for that, first Wednesday in June.
Cool. Check your company calendar, which should be on your Google Calendar now. It's info@c21be.com, and just accept that calendar, put a check mark, and everything will show up as a gold color. You can change the color if you want, but it shows up.
Thanks, Lauren. I'm the only one here, and I have my hotspot on to boost this. So that's why no connection issues. I'm not relying on our office internet here.
Perfect. All righty. Thank you, everybody. Happy Memorial Day. Be safe. Be happy. What does the guy say, right? If you can't be safe, what does he say? If you can't be good, be safe.
Oh,
that's it.
That's a good one. I always say, if you can't be good at it.
There you go. All right. Happy Friday, everybody.